Hey everybody, before we get this video started, this is actually a little segment that I'm adding on to the beginning of the video that you're about to see. There's a funny thing going on in the background where another player is bumping me and punching me, and you're going to see me turn around and just kind of signal like, stop that. And eventually they do, to their credit. So whoever did this, maybe you're seeing yourself in a YouTube video and having a laugh, but I'm just kind of saying like, no, no. And then they're like, okay. But what I wanted to talk about is in the video that you're about to see, there's a couple of sequences where I use time compression, where I speed things up when I'm traveling in between points while I'm trying to illustrate the main point that I'm talking about. And it occurred to me afterwards, I was like, the flashing lights in the Quantum at high speed might kind of trigger a seizure or be kind of a bad thing. But I wasn't really sure because I don't really have that condition, so I don't really know. So I'm going to kind of leave it in the video and just kind of say, you know, is this bad or is this good? I don't know. So just a little bit of a health warning before we start the video. Anyways, enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to a certain point in Star Citizen's development that we have discussed for years and years and years. And it's finally time to start thinking in the fourth dimension. It is time to start thinking about the future because, to a certain degree, though in a weird, non-committal way, the die has been cast.
Me personally, I think it's a big step in the right direction. We can lose some in-game persistence, but we can't really lose people like their earned UEC or their items they bought and the ship they bought in-game, right?
So and hopefully we've cleaned up some of the initial glitches of it. I mean, of course, I think we'll, you know, if there's an exploit and someone's figured out a way to get a couple billion credits, we reserve the right to either individually edit those people's accounts, so we can just take the money or the items away from them,
or apply a general cap,
or just do a general cap, as Paul says, or even, you know, occasionally we may decide, well, you know, we need to just reset the database and do a general wipe, which we're going to try not to do that if possible, but you know, you never know because we're constantly adding sort of new structures. So, you know, we've got our next.
So the die has been cast, sort of. CIG has kind of left themselves an out in this, obviously. If an individual player reaches astronomical wealth, probably going to lose that money. So not much point in doing it. Now, they can also cap things, which I think would be, you know, kind of a healthy thing to introduce sooner rather than later. Because, you know, just knowing where the bar is, knowing where the limits are, I think that they can keep things reasonable and allow players to have a sense of progression without things getting nuts and without players feeling like, well, where's the bar going to end up? Because, I mean, imagine if you go out and you start making money, start grinding out that cash, only to find out, well, the bar was actually, you know, 50 yards behind you or 50 million behind you, and all of a sudden you lose a huge amount of money and work just kind of flushed down the toilet. And that's what it all comes down to. Up until now, you know, a lot of the work that you do in Star Citizen has kind of felt like, you know, is it actually going to mean anything? Am I actually going anywhere? It feels futile, and that's kind of why it's unrewarding. But now it has the possibility of becoming something that's worthwhile. But I think that it's important for players to approach it from a sane perspective. Yes, we can go out and we can just start grinding cash. You know, I could go out, I could get in my Caterpillar, load it up with goods, start trading right now. And I could easily, as long as the force is with me and I don't get a 30K disconnection or anything like that, I could be a millionaire very quickly. And probably multi-millions very shortly after that. And it would just start to ramp up and I would get to probably pretty insane amounts of money very quickly, and that could make an interesting series of videos, but it's not something that jives with my playstyle at all. I'm the kind of person that when I see a video on YouTube that says, oh, you know, for let's say like WoW, grind 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 18,000, 36,000 gold per hour using this method. And as soon as I see the word grind, I'm like, no thanks. My approach to things like this is I kind of take the long view. One, I do want to make a lot of money, and generally in the MMOs when I play them, I do make a lot of money, an insane amount of money in fact, but I don't make it very quickly. I make it over time. Because I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time just grinding my face off in dungeons or doing missions or doing anything like that to the point where I'm driving myself insane. You've seen me doing these missions many times in the past, experimenting with different ships, different approaches, different landing sites, you know, trying to invoke every kind of error, mistake, or accident that I possibly can to kind of get a feel for what works and what doesn't work, because what I want to get things down to is something that I can easily do on a daily or semi-daily basis that earns a decent amount of money but requires not all that much effort or attention. Now, once we get to a point in the game where the game is far more in depth and a lot more systems have been added to the game, a lot more professions, then I think the game will merit a much more in-depth gameplay approach. But currently, there's so many bugs and there's so many things that can frustrate you or go wrong with Star Citizen that I think that it's not really healthy to play with that mindset. I think it's more healthy to play with, you know, set a couple of reasonable long-term goals and just kind of chip away at it just a little bit here and there every day if you feel like it, every other day, maybe a couple of times a week, whatever. I think that if you kind of take this point and you say, okay, this is it, everything counts, I'm going to go start making 1 million credits a day, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And you're setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak and a lot of rage. It's better to be reasonable in your approach to something like this and say, okay, I've been playing the game for a while. I now know what kind of works, what kind of doesn't. I know what systems are available in the game right now. Hell, I'd rather be doing salvage. But salvage isn't here right now, so instead I'm going to go and I'm going to run smuggling missions. Still want to do pirate stuff, but I'm going to do smuggling missions. I'm going to pick up a couple of boxes at Levski, pick up 2 more boxes at Grim Hex, then I'm going to fly to Lyria, to the orphanage. I believe it's on Lyria, and I'm just going to go to that North Pole marker, OM1, above Lyria. That's only like 180 kilometers from the actual landing site. I'm just going to cruise down, deliver all 4 boxes, fly back to Levski, and refuel, repair, rearm my ship, whatever. Done. And that's it. And I'm just going to repeat that whenever I feel like it. And I feel that that is kind of a reasonable approach to kind of playing Star Citizen in a way in the game's current state that not only keeps it interesting, but also not committing too much to it, because we don't know when and if that hammer is going to drop on us. The potential for a reset is going to be like this perpetual sort of Damocles just hanging over us for months and months into the future, if not years. This is going to be a very real possibility that at any point CIG could say, look, with what we're trying to do and, you know, the database and blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that, we need to reset everyone back to their kind of neutral beginning state. And, you know, if you grind all kinds of shit and you go nuts and then all of a sudden CIG drops that, you're going to flip out, right? You're going to lose your mind over that. But I think that for right now, keep it reasonable, but try to set the stage that if we do, you know, kind of springboard forward and they say, no, you're good. This is it. Locked in. What you got is what you got. Keep going. You're never going to lose it now unless you blow it up yourself. Go nuts. Setting yourself up for when that day hits, you're set up for success. So let me talk a bit about, you know, my views on this and what my approach, what my plan is from this day forward in Star Citizen until other things show up and we need to maybe broaden our horizons a little bit. Now, you may think that because I'm a big Salvage fan, that my goal is going to be to just deck out my Reclaimer. Best shields, best power core, best coolers, best guns, best everything, blah, blah, blah. No. 2 reasons. 1, it's going to take a while, going to be, going to be expensive. 2, Salvage isn't even in the game. So what's the point of decking out the Reclaimer when I don't know when Salvage is going to arrive? Now, CIG famously said, Salvage is the next career, and we've kind of talked about that a couple of times, but CIG also said Squadron 42 in 2016. It's now 2020, right? So let's be real. Salvage, love to see it. If it showed up tomorrow, I'd be ecstatic, but right now, it's an unknown. However, what is one of the ships that I fly the most in the game? Sweet old Cuddy. Love this ship. And I mean, you can see this has got the best doors for getting in and out in 0G, in my experience. These side doors are just a dream come true. Just boop, right in, right out, no muss, no fuss, no cartwheels, no death spirals. Gotta love it. So, goal number 1, kit out the Cuddy. Kit out the Cuddy, really, really sweet. Not going to be that expensive, and it's not going to take all that long. Truth be told, I probably already have the money to do all of that now. But I also said I want to set myself up for success for when the game gets into a better, much more stable state. And one of the big money makers that technically its career is already in game, though highly risky, is the Caterpillar. I want to deck out my Caterpillar with a minimum goal of it being able to take on NPC freelancers, NPC constellations, and other NPC Caterpillars, maybe even NPC Starfarers. We'll see. I want to be able to take on these ships and pirate them from the Caterpillar. That's kind of my next big goal. And so that is going to be where a lot of my concentration goes. A lot of this credit earning is going to go, is to deck out the Caterpillar and set it up for that next stage, because technically all those things are in the game right now. Some of it just hasn't been tied together. Admittedly, we still need tractor beams, which probably will come with Salvage, hopefully. But overall, I think that is kind of low-hanging fruit, that CIG pretty much has all the pieces in the game right now. They just have to tie it together. So I think setting up the Caterpillar for decent cargo hauling of illegal goods, hopefully, and making it decently armed, decently protected, much better than its, current kind of fresh out of the box state. I think that is a reasonable goal to set myself up for success in the next stage of Star Citizen. As, the game becomes more stable and as that kind of investment becomes more worthwhile. It's still a risk, I think, much like decking out the Reclaimer, but I think it's a more reasonable risk, and it's a lower bar. I'm setting a lower bar for disappointment if they do go, oh, by the way, had to do a reset. Oh, well. That, I think, is going to be, those 2 ships are going to be my goal, my project over the next little while. And that's kind of why I do these smuggling missions. And that's why I've been slowly, if you've been watching the credit totals, when I've been doing these missions in the background of my videos, you've been noticing that I've been building it up. Whenever I, kind of go and I try to get background footage for my videos, I go and I get other stuff as well. But generally, this always kind of happens in the background too. This is the part of the video that you don't see, which is when I go to the destination, when I go to ArcCorp to get the footage, or when I go to Daymar to get the footage. It's usually in the middle of traveling to all these different locations and doing these trips. This is generally where, the money is made while getting the footage at the same time. I realize that there's probably going to be some of you out there who are in, very serious orgs, serious business. Star Citizen is life and blah, blah, blah. Be reasonable in your approach. don't set yourself up for too much frustration or depression. Just say, you know what? They say persistence. They may mean it. It may be a thing. So I'm just gonna try to set the stage for that. When we know that it's locked in, I've got a reasonable springboard into the future. It's all about, managing hopes and managing disappointments. When I talk to people who play a lot of MMOs, and a lot of people who've quit MMOs in the past, they say, oh yeah, I used to play that thing, but I quit. Or I used to play this, but I quit. Often deeper into the stories is the fact that, I was really grinding for this, and I was really fighting to try and get this thing, and I didn't get it, and I was so disappointed, I just quit. I just quit. And, I think that if you just set much more reasonable goals when you're playing MMOs, it's kind of how I'm still playing WoW after all these years, is because I do set goals, but they're very reasonable goals. So there are going to be things that disappoint me, of course. I'm a nitpicker. There's going to be a ton of things that disappoint me, but I don't set myself up for disappointment. And I think that's an important thing. So I don't sit there and say, this has got to be this, that, and the other thing. I go, okay, what am I getting? What is the objective realities of the battlefield that I'm on? And how do I cope with them? That's the thing about being disappointed with game features and things like that. There are some things that are beyond your control. Physical structures within the game, like let's say how a cockpit is designed or something like that, that's out of your hands. And that's something that I think is fair to comment on. But in other areas of disappointment, they may have kind of hit the ball, but you were the one who teed it up for them, right? And you have to kind of accept your share in that. And, when they say, oh, we're going to be making a combat ship, and you go, oh, I'm so excited, another Aegis combat ship, and then it ends up being something you don't like, or something visually that you don't find appealing. You kind of set an expectation there, so you kind of wear that, even if it has all the stats that you like, but it doesn't look the way you want it to look. You kind of set the stage for your own disappointment there. You just have to kind of accept that it is what it is. That's why I don't get hung up on the looks of ships. I'm more worried about the functionality. I care about the stats. How it looks, really not all that important, which is why even though, I bought the original asymmetrical Herald, I didn't just, ditch my Herald when it became symmetrical. I'm disappointed, and I will never stop talking about that disappointment, CIG. But at the same time, it's still a solid ship with a solid functionality once it gets implemented into the game, that is. So I'm going to keep it, And I think that that's kind of important. Don't tee yourself up for disappointment with this announcement, with this intention that they're going forward with, that they want to keep things, including money, persistent. Don't set yourself up for, disappointment and failure. Set yourself up for success. Look at it productively. And don't drive yourself nuts grinding a whole bunch of credits that could very well just end up being erased. Take a reasonable approach. Enjoy playing the game. Look at things like guns, engines. Go look at, hardpoint.io or whatnot. Look at those sites. Build kind of a dream setup for some of your more reasonably priced ships that are flyable in the game right now. Maybe go out and build that setup and test it out and see if you like it, Take that approach. Use this as an opportunity to just kind of set yourself up for success. And don't set yourself up for heartbreak and disappointment, because that's a very real thing. And wow, that background at high speed is very psychedelic. I should probably put some kind of seizure warning on this video, or maybe I should. Yeah, if you have seizures, don't watch the last 30 seconds. For your safety. I should probably put a warning before the footage. I think that would be much more productive. But yeah, so that's all I got to say about this. We'll talk about the other things in Pillar Talk on a different video, but if you're sitting there and you're going oh, now's the time to grind, slow down. We don't know for sure yet.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.